Look at these people. They mean business. There's Tim, able to buy his way into any game in town. The master of fear, uncertainty, and doubt. Iris, Ms. 3D herself, looking more Hollywood every day. Vicky, the consummate pro. She's back and stronger than ever. And Dave, about to clean up on this little group again and loving every minute of it.
Full boat, 9s and 3s.
Not again? I don't believe it.
How much are you up now?
I think the question is just how much are you down, my friend? My share in this market just seems to keep growing.
Yeah, right. And next you'll be telling us you're the de facto standard for 5-card draw poker.
I like it. You know, I think I can use that. Pardon my reach, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, how sweet it is.
I hate when you say that. Don't you hate when he says that?
We call it 4D, can you believe it? I don't know, but nobody else does either. No, Poopsie, I can't wait to see you either. Right, love? Bye, honey. Okay, whose deal is it?
Nice of you to join us. It's my deal. Let's make this the last hand, I don't know if I can stand any more of my dear friend's delight.
Where's Tim? Yo, Tim!
He's at the water cooler again.
Not again. Yo, Tim, you want to be in this last hand or what?
All this competition makes me hungry.
Your boss is right. Now get over here and stop goofing off. Ante up, everyone.
I'm in. Intriguing brooch. Family heirloom?
Hardly. Found it on my desk a few days ago. Another practical joke from the guys in engineering.
Just what is that supposed to be, anyway?
A snake.
Reptiles are disgusting.
What kind of snake?
A coral snake.
Are those little things poisonous?
Extremely.
Oh, I don't believe it. You're kidding. Lucasfilm? Spielberg's interested? Oh, Poopsie, listen.
Will you put that thing down?
Who can open?
Open. Now, I'm not sure you could get any two people in this crowd to agree on the meaning of that word.
Hey, open is my middle name. I'll open for 10.
Right. You wouldn't know the meaning of it if you fell over
Hey,
it.
this is for the big one, kids.
Why do you annoy me so much?
Well, what a bunch of sore losers. If you can't stand the heat of the game, get out. By the way, Bill, just what is it you're reading in that thing anyway?
Oh, the role of advertising in a marketing campaign.
Looks like you picked the colors of your ad campaign to match your shirt.
Oh, don't listen to him, Bill.
You are going to need all the help you can get to stay in this game.
Oh, and what game is that, Dave? And I wouldn't count me out if I were you. Well, you never know. I might have an ace or two up my sleeve.
So I think I liked you better as an engineer.
No, everything's fine, dear. Yes, just a little competitive rivalry. And
Is that a new do?
New wave, Dave. How many cards?
2.
Come on, Billy, you in this or not?
Oh, I'm in this game, all right. I'll take 2.
Not sure. What if? What? Oh, I'm sorry. Dealer takes 3. Tim, you start the betting.
Let's see what you're made of.
Tim, dear, serving up some more of your FUD, are you?
A nice try, Tim, old boy. We all know you're bluffing, but it's your money.
Well, let's call them in, ladies and gentlemen.
The highest performing servers and workstations in the industry.
Admirable showing, Vicky, but I'm sorry to dash your hopes. Mainframes, PCs, and RISC workstations.
Yeah, and a couple of dozen different operating systems.
3D graphics is my strong suit, and leading price performance workstations.
4 of a kind, kids. Open systems, open systems, open systems, and open systems.
Open as long as they conform to your standards.
Bill, come on, the suspense is killing me.
Well, there's no question you have laid down some formidable challenges. Now, I've taken the heat from you all night, and it's time to give some back. Let's start with the client servers. You see, Vicky, you are not the only one who knows something about distributed computing and the desktop. Next, there's multimedia, We can show you how to put this technology on your desktop today. It looks good and sounds great.
But you don't mean...
The Queen has vision, as in visualization. You see, we know something about 3D too, Iris. The right 3D applications and an award-winning workstation. What's a queen without her mate, ladies and gentlemen? Meet the king of pecs. I'd put our system up against anything I've seen in this game so far.
No, this is not real.
And last, my friends, the look of things to come.
No.
You'll be hearing a lot more about this. That's my winning hand. Now, if you don't mind. Oh, by the way, I think it's time you all started to think visual.
Hi, my name is Sandy Carpentier. I'm the Communications Manager for Unix-based systems and software. I've been heavily involved in Digital's activities regarding the ACE initiative. As such, the people with the basement tape asked me to start giving you updates on what's happening. First, I'd like to give you a progress report on the initiative itself. For those of you who don't know, there are 3 ACE marketing steering committees, one in Japan, one in Europe, and one in the US. Digital has a representative on each committee. I'm the U.S. representative, Ed Manning is the rep in Japan, and Paul Evans is the European representative. These committees are now meeting regularly to develop a marketing strategy for ACE worldwide. So far, our deliverables are a common ACE presentation, which is being developed for the companies participating in ACE to incorporate into their own customer presentations. The intent here is to foster consistency on the part of ACE members regarding the initiative. We will have a set of consistent messages that are spelled out very clearly in 10 slides or less. We are also developing an ACE trade show kit. Included in this will be a template to have a common info sheet, logos, banners, flags, buttons, and the like. We're selecting a schedule of shows that will have a common ACE booth. This means one booth called ACE manned by participating companies. In addition, there is an ISV committee that is looking at the list of shows we have developed to determine which shows should have a decidedly ISV focus and recruitment effort. Other near-term activities that you should be aware of include the R4000 introduction and demonstration that MIPS will have somewhere around the first week of October. Expect to see both NT and ODT running on the R4000 at that announcement. In addition, you will see Microsoft's NT running on 3 ACE vendors' hardware at Comdex in October. The vendors that will be featured will most likely be Digital, SGI, and MIPS. This will be followed by the delivery of the Advanced Developers Kits from both Microsoft and SCO in the November timeframe. We also believe that there will be a need for an ACE trade show to be held approximately 1 year from this September, which will include all of the ACE hardware and software vendor companies that are participating in the initiative at that time. Given all of this activity, one other item that you need to be aware of is that we are seriously discussing the possibility of hiring a company to manage the implementation of these activities. Of course, all of what we have accomplished to date has not been without some issues creeping up in the process. Anytime you form a group, you work through these items. I assure you that nothing has come up that is insurmountable. For example, a less glamorous issue is funding. We are currently working through the issue of how we pay for our common expenses. Do larger companies pay more because they can afford it? This has to be worked out. Now, the real glamour issues that the press has been using to sell newspapers are a story in and of themselves. A prime example of this is the ongoing saga of the Apache Group. For those of you who don't read the gossip columns or the trade rags, this so-called group simply refers to those ACE vendors that have made prior business commitments to System 5 version 4. The press had customers believing that this rebel group within ACE was going to either convert the initiative to supporting only System 5.4 or that they would break up the initiative due to the participating companies' inability to resolve this issue. All of this controversy sells newspapers. But the truth of the matter is that the press has missed the real issue. Anytime you try to bring diverse groups together to head in a common direction, there are compromises that have to be made on all levels. All of us has to move from individual versions of Unix and move towards ODT. It just so happens that those companies that had standardized on System 5 version 4 have more work to do to get to ODT. It's not an insurmountable problem, but these companies do have to work out a plan to protect their revenue stream until they can bring their new product to market. Everyone has to deal with the reactions and questions from their customers, but obviously the ACE companies believe there will be added value to their customer base if they make these changes, or they would not be participating to begin with. Rumors are also rampant in the press. The most recent one is with regard to whether or not Microsoft will put NT on the Sun platform. I asked the Microsoft representative to the committee that I sit on about this, and he said they are not considering the SPARC platform. But even if you choose not to believe a Microsoft employee, you could simply apply common sense. Nina Litton, a respected industry analyst, examined the pros and cons of Microsoft making just such a move. She points out that there are 3 reasons why this shouldn't happen. Let me read them from her Open Systems Advisor. Number 1, technically it would be a pain in the neck. SPARC has, from Microsoft's perspective, the wrong byte order. Number 2, the plan could backfire. Anything that helps SPARC sales might help sell Sun OS instead of Windows. Number 3, the ACE initiative vendors would go ballistic. Now let's talk about the IBM-Apple alliance. This could be the most strategic tactical stall of all times. It's up to us to dispel the myth around this move. It's worth pointing out that in terms of developing the clone market, that they would need to be successful, they've got a long way to go. They're starting from scratch. Now look at Sun's effort to develop a clone market. They've been at it for a long time and without great success. Look at the numbers. Since 1987, clones represent only 5% of their market share, and that number is shrinking. Now you might ask, what would be different about ACE? Good question. Let's look at this. Chips are available today from both Intel and MIPS. Standardized byte ordering has been chosen, and a number of member companies already use it or have committed to convert. Operating systems are being introduced in October, and advanced developers kits will be available around the same time. By the time you see this video, 20 more new members will have been announced, bringing the total membership of ACE to 88 customers. So there you have it, your first in a series of ACE updates. Be sure to pay attention to the credits at the end of this segment for pointers to ACE-related materials. See you next time.
What I'm going to be going over, the presentation that I'm going to be using is the customer presentation that we use to discuss the ACE initiative. So it's mainly the view that we would be presenting to customers about what ACE is and the implications that we feel that ACE has for the marketplace. This has really not been tailored towards an internal audience because I wanted to give you the flavor of the way we present ACE to customers. This quote is taken directly out of the press release that was released jointly by the 21 vendors who announced the ACE initiative on April 9th of this calendar year. And basically what the ACE initiative is all about is to create a broadly supported standard environment which will allow us to move into the 1990s with different operating system platforms and different hardware platforms being able to work cooperatively in a network environment. And that's really at a very high level what the ACE initiative is all about. The key components of the ACE initiative, there are actually 4. The first is the choice of 2 underlying hardware architectures. The first is based on the MIPS RISC architecture, which is the basis for Digital's DECstation and DECsystem family of RISC products. So that's one of the 2 key hardware architectures that's supported. Part of that is the development of a new specification, which is called the Advanced RISC Computing Specification, or ARC specification, and that is being developed jointly by Digital and a number of the other members who are part of the ACE initiative to define what the basic capabilities of a RISC-based system should be. And in a few moments, we'll be describing at a fairly high level what some of those capabilities look like. The second major hardware architecture that's supported is the Intel 8086, 8286 family of products to continue the support for the industry standard PC environment. So there are two distinct hardware architectures. Layered on top of those two, you also have two operating systems. The first is an OSF-based Unix operating system, which will be called Open Desktop, that will be distributed by the Santa Cruz operation, who's a major player in the Unix environment today, primarily on PCs or in multi-user systems like the application DEC 433MP. That's a mouthful. And then the second operating environment is a new operating system from Microsoft, which is called OS2 version 3. It's based on an entirely new technology kernel, which was developed by a gentleman named Dave Cutler, who used to work for Digital. It is completely new from the ground up. About the only thing that it has in common with OS2 that people know today in the PC environment is it has the same application programming interface and it has the same name. In terms of the capabilities, it's a much more sophisticated operating environment than the current OS2 is. So it's not just targeted for desktop systems, it's also targeted for multi-user systems and servers and workstations as well. So what the ACE initiative brings for Digital is it helps us to solidify our marketing messages around all of the different platforms that we support, because a number of the platforms that we're selling today already fit into the ACE initiative, as we'll see in a couple of moments. So we needed to take all of the different vendors who were on the MIPS platform and get all of those people to agree on a standard, not only for the hardware, but also for the software environment, to present to application developers a significant market opportunity for them to put their applications on top of our hardware. And now we are going to be presenting them a much larger market opportunity than we would have if the MIPS installed base was fragmented among all of these different players. So we're coalescing around a hardware architecture standard and a software architecture standard for RISC Unix. The good news is the strategy is based on what Digital had been planning all along. We don't have to change anything about our strategy in terms of products to fit into the ACE initiative. Our hardware architecture remains the same. Our software architecture for Unix remains the same. And we've managed to convince the other people in the industry that the way we were moving was the right way. And when people looked at all the things that Digital had been doing and how successful we had been with the RISC-based products, the other people who were in the MIPS camp believed that it was in their best interest to move on to our bandwagon rather than convincing us to go the other way. Part of what ACE brings to the table is a set of established distribution channels from a number of different companies. One of the things John brought up in his opening comments was the whole thing about market opportunity and business opportunity and things along those lines. How is Digital going to make money? You saw that there are over 20 vendors there today that are part of the ACE initiative. There are going to be about 10 or 15 more announced very shortly. Not everybody is going to build every product. Part of what the ACE initiative brings to the table is new business opportunities for Digital to be able to sell its hardware to other vendors, for example, and have them go to a business model where they OEM our low-cost systems or perhaps our high-end servers. And there are a number of business discussions that are underway between Digital and other members of the ACE initiative. So that's only one possible way that we can make money in this environment, is by selling our hardware. So there are a number of business opportunities that come to the forefront. It allows us to get into some distribution channels that we're not already in today, because some of the other vendors have distribution channels set up that Digital does not have easy access to. So there again are a number of business discussions related to channels around how to best sell our products through the various methods to get to the different customer bases. In terms of what this means for customers, we tried to look at it from two different perspectives. For PC users, they have a choice. They can continue to stay with the PC Intel environment that they like today, stay on the Intel performance curve, or if they choose to, they now have a way to move very easily over to the RISC price performance curve, while maintaining the same type of applications and user environment that they're used to. One of the things that's significant about OS/2 version 3 is its high level of compatibility with both DOS, the Windows environment, and the OS/2 environment. So they can move over to RISC computing if they want to, or they can stay with the Intel environment and know that whichever one they choose, they'll be able to move data and applications across them very easily. For RISC system users, what it means is the availability of thousands of shrink-wrap applications from many different sources on the RISC platforms that they're using today and the RISC platforms that they'll be using in the future. And what it means for both of the customer bases, whether you're a PC user or you're a RISC system user, is the competition between vendors will drive better price performance, better functionality, and that's always good for customers because it gives them a range of choices, a range of different places to go. As I mentioned, ACE is more than just the desktop. You already know that people build a wide range of systems on the Intel architecture. Digital ourselves sell systems all the way from notebook-type computers all the way up to multi-processing, time-sharing, and server systems on the Intel architecture. Well, the RISC environment is the same. The core specification, the ARC specification, allows enough flexibility for system vendors like Digital to implement a wide range of systems, all the way from low-cost systems like PCs and workstations to general-purpose systems, fault-tolerant systems, database servers, things along those lines. So it gives us a great deal of flexibility in the environment about how we actually go about building systems. The way that that's done is by defining a very small core of capabilities that every system has to have. And basically what that amounts to is the MIPS RISC microprocessor running in little-endian byte ordering mode, which is what we use today on our DEC stations and DEC systems. There's a specified way of implementing a memory subsystem to be compatible. You have to implement storage, although the specification doesn't say exactly what type of storage that has to be. So for example, on workstation class machines, you can have SCSI-based disk drives, whereas on some of your high-end servers where you want to be able to attach multiple gigabytes or terabytes of data, you don't have to be limited by something as slow as SCSI, for example, on the low end. So there's flexibility built into the specification at that level. One of the major things that is specified is the firmware for all of the machines. And what that means essentially is that there's a layer between the hardware and the operating system which is standard across all of these different platforms. Both of the operating systems know what to expect. Both the Microsoft operating system and the Unix operating system know what to expect on any ARC-compatible system. So that means that it's very easy, once you've got that middle layer written, for people to implement systems below that middle layer in a very flexible fashion. So those are the things which are required for all systems. There are also some optional things which you can implement, and if you choose to implement them, they have to be implemented according to the way the specification is written. So for example, if you want to implement serial ports, you have to do them at a certain speed, you have to do them with certain connectors, so that people will know that there'll be that level of interchange available between the systems. There are today two choices of buses which come mainly from the PC and workstation environment. One choice for bus is the turbo channel bus, which is the digital developed bus architecture that we introduced on the DEC Station 5000 Model 200. So it's a very high performance bus architecture which is mainly suited for either workstations or higher performance systems. The other choice is the ESA bus, which comes from the industry standard PC environment. So if you were to try to build a system which was compatible with PCs at the peripheral level, you might choose to implement the ESA bus rather than the turbo channel. The spec is open such that other buses can be added in the future. And the ones that are being strongly considered now are the VME bus because of its wide industry acceptance, and also the Future Bus Plus, which is an emerging follow-on to the VME bus, which Digital plans to implement on a number of our systems. So it's important to remember that the bus choice is an option. You don't even have to have a bus at all. If you were to build a low-cost PC or a low-cost workstation, a bus is not required. but if you put one in, it has to be either ESA or turbo channel based. Now, if you were to build a desktop system, there are a few additional requirements. This is if it was a PC or workstation. Obviously, you have to have a keyboard, and the keyboard that's specified is a industry standard PC keyboard, 101 keys in a particular layout, which maps to the way that the PC keyboard layout is today. You have to have a pointing device, and there are certain specifications about that. It can be a mouse or a tablet or whatever. That's not particularly specified. The video resolution that's defined today is 1024 by 768, which is emerging as a standard for some of the high-end PCs today. 8-bit color is specified as a minimum, and there will be a different display specification for laptops because they're not quite up to that level across the board yet, so there'll be a distinct laptop display definition. And then there's the standard for audio in and out capability, so that you'll be able to count on having the ability to do things like voicemail on your system or voice annotation of spreadsheets and things along those lines. So all of these things are built into the specification for the advanced RISC computing architecture. And people can implement systems based on all of these different specifications and know that either one of the operating systems will run on top of compliant hardware. Let's change gears to the software environment because, quite honestly, the software environment is much more interesting than the hardware is. The name for this has changed, I believe. Is that right, Steve? They're talking about calling it Open Desktop for ARC systems. Yeah. But the name that they were originally talking about was Open Desktop MIPS, but it's going to be called Open Desktop for ARC when it comes out. The thing that's very interesting about this is that the work for this operating system is being done by Digital. Those of you who are familiar with the work Digital has been doing around productizing the OSF1 operating system, essentially what's happening is that Digital is doing the development work for this and then is handing it over to SCO, and SCO will then be responsible for distributing this to all of the different people who are members of the ACE initiative. The good news is that this is very much consistent with our strategy. This is Digital's Unix strategy. The only difference now is that instead of the OSF1 implementation from Digital only running on DEC stations and DEC systems, now it will be running on systems from Compaq and Olivetti and from all of the other members who are part of the ACE initiative. This was a major win for us. It really proves the fact that our strategy of aligning ourselves with OSF was the right thing to do, and acceptance on the part of the industry that we were moving in the right direction all along. Basically what they're doing is taking the OSF technology, integrating in a number of the features from the Ultrix environment that application developers and users have liked over the years, and producing that as Digital's mainstream Unix offering. A couple of the things that come with that are the fact that we will have both source compatibility with Ultrix today and binary application compatibility to a certain level with Ultrix today. The second operating system environment is from Microsoft. It's called OS2 3.0, and it's, as I mentioned, it's a new architecture. It has support for the DOS, Windows, and OS2 application programming interfaces, which will make it easier for application developers who are currently on one of those operating systems to make their application available on top of it. It's an alternative operating system to the Unix implementation, the Open Desktop Unix implementation. They are compatible basically at the data interchange level. In terms of application programming interfaces, about the only common API that's available on both that I know of is the POSIX interface. Microsoft has stated that they'll be POSIX 10.003.1 compliant, so if you had an application which only supported the POSIX standard interfaces, it would be easily portable. But a number of the other interfaces that applications would need are not common between the two environments. But actually, that's no big surprise, because you see people coming out in the PC environment with the same version of applications running on Macintosh and running on Windows, and the APIs between those are completely different. But what this means is that because the underlying data formats between the different hardware will be the same, and that's specified within the the Intel environment and within the MIPS environment, it means that if an application is written to OS/2 and the same application is written to Open Desktop, it'll be very easy for you to interchange data created by the same application regardless of the platform that it's running on. So that's a very big win for application developers that those standards are in place at the media level and at the network interchange level as well. Now this is just a little bit of comparison to how this whole environment stacks up to some of the other competing RISC vendors, and this is just really focusing on the RISC side as opposed to the RISC-Y and the Intel side. Sun is trying to promote a similar type of environment with Spark and Sun OS, and they've had some level of success, but there are some major distinctions between the two environments. The first of all is that the Sun environment is basically controlled by Sun. It's basically controlled by Sun and AT&T. Whereas in this environment we have two independent software suppliers. You have Microsoft for the OS/2 3.0 environment, and you have SCO for the Unix environment. SCO doesn't make hardware, so the decisions that they will make around which features and things which will go into the operating system will be for what's good for all of the different vendors that are involved. They won't be specifically tailoring things necessarily to a particular vendor's hardware. In the Sun and AT&T environment, you can't necessarily say the same thing because Sun has control over things, AT&T sells their own line of hardware, so there's somewhat of a shadiness involved, so to speak, around who really controls which pieces of things. And having the two independent operating system suppliers from a perception point of view, we think is a very positive thing. The other thing around Spark is that they've managed to sign up a lot of people, but most of them are people that nobody cares about. You know, they're like garage shops over in Korea who make PCs. And when I say garage shops, I mean some of these are literally garage shops, you know, 3- and 5-person operations. Whereas what you see in the ACE initiative is major PC vendors who are already supporting the Intel environment also going to be supporting this environment as well. People like Olivetti, Compaq, Group Bull, all of these major vendors who are key forces in the PC environment today are now saying that they will also support this risk-based environment too. So the category of, or the class that the different members of the different initiatives are involved in, I believe that we have a superior class of people who are involved in the ACE initiative relative to what Sun has in the Spark environment. And 88 Open really isn't even worth talking about. IBM and HP are basically, they haven't adopted a similar type of approach. IBM's RISC architecture is developed internally by IBM, and it's not licensed to anyone else for either chip manufacture or for building compatible systems. HP is going to be selling a low-end system which will be manufactured by Samsung, but they again haven't gone to this same degree of openness and sharing in terms of having compatible systems available. So I think the key point relative to positioning around IBM and HP is that, yes, we do believe they're going to be successful. They have good Unix products. They have good RISC products. However, we believe that the ACE initiative provides us with a much better opportunity for getting key applications over. Because when you add up all of the different boxes that are going to be going out the door from digital and all the other members of the ACE initiative, it'll be much greater, we believe, than anything that IBM or HP will be shipping on their own. So the pull that we'll get from the marketplace because of the hardware for ISVs we think will be significant. Just a couple of things to summarize and put things in perspective in terms of the things that we've done. Again, from a software perspective, Digital is delivering our OSF1 Unix stream to SCO as the Unix basis for this initiative. We're doing the work, and we're giving it to SCO, to OEM, to the rest of the people who are members of the ACE initiative. In terms of hardware components, our bus architecture is part of the specification. Our choice of byte ordering excuse me, is part of the specification, and Digital's engineers are contributing to the development of the spec, and we're actually in Palo Alto, which is where our DEC stations are designed. We are building a reference platform which will be used for both Microsoft and SCO to make sure that the operating systems will run on top of compliant hardware. We're doing that work ourselves. So there's been a significant amount of work that Digital has done, not only in terms of software but also hardware. And it is a continuation of our strategy. Nothing that we were doing before April 9th has changed as a result of this in terms of our engineering plans. We're going to continue to build MIPS-based systems and servers, which will be ARC compliant in the future. We are going to continue with our OSF technology stream, and we're going to continue to promote the turbo channel bus as a high-performance bus architecture. And we've had a great deal of success around the turbo channel. We actually today have over 200 different independent hardware vendors building add-in boards to the turbo channel bus. So we've been very successful there, and we think that ACE will make the market pull even stronger. What we tell customers around why you should buy ACE solutions from Digital is that, first of all, our RISC platforms are ACE compatible today. Now, we've gone out with some ads about this. We had an ad in the Wall Street Journal shortly after the ACE initiative was announced, talking about our compatible family of systems. I want to make the distinction for you between compatible and compliant, because in true Digital style, everybody likes to nitpick words and definitions, and everybody has opinions about things. So let me tell you what the difference is between compliant and compatible. What we mean when we say our systems today are compatible, because they use the same data formats, the little endian byte ordering, for example, if somebody has an application today and they move that application to Open Desktop in the future, any data that they've used, presentations or databases that they've created or whatever, those will all be directly transferable over to this new environment. You won't have to do a thing. None of the other MIPS vendors who are part of this initiative can say the same thing, because they all support the opposite format. And for those of you who have been involved in the big endian, little endian wars, you know that this is a significant win for Digital in getting little endian adopted as the standard for the ACE initiative. In addition, because of the Ultrix compatibility that's going into the Open Desktop software, it will be very easy for application developers who are currently on Ultrix to move over to Open Desktop in the future. And we have a number of things planned in terms of migration aids and technical consulting and things along those lines to make that happen. Excuse me. In addition, because of the work that's being done by OSG around the Open Desktop software that we're going to be supplying, some of the existing platforms that we have today will be supported on that software environment, which means the shrink wrap applications that will result will be able to run on some of our DEX stations and DEX systems that we're already shipping today. They won't actually be compliant with that specification because the spec's not done, but what's really key to most people is, can they get the applications that they need, and will the data that they're creating today be compatible? And in the RISC space, Digital is the only vendor who can make these claims about compatibility today. Now, in terms of actually having systems that comply with the spec that's being developed, that ARC spec, what we plan is that, excuse me, our R4000 based systems, which will be happening sometime in the mid-1992 timeframe, those will all be ARC compliant, workstations and servers. And we're looking today at some of the other systems, some of the R3000 systems being developed, to see if we can also make those be ARC compliant as well. There are some timing issues around those platforms rather than technology issues. Given that the spec won't be finished until about the end of July, there might be some juggling that has to go on. But Digital wants to make sure that our platforms are the first platforms out there on the marketplace that are ARC compliant. And they just got a directive the other day from Ken Olson and the executive committee that Digital will have the first R4000 products out on the market. Period. End of story. That's it. So the word has been handed down from above. Thank you, Ken. We will take the challenge very seriously.